I need to just get used to it again a little bit.
If she's too stinky for you, it's okay.
We get them out of it, cut the entire, cut everything off, and then that's placed in with, a couple sheets of art sword in the back, or we make our own trays. You can still see but this is only a one side.
Yeah.
And this is an early version of that. That is non-adhesive. Little spot welds to tighten it up in places, release the pressure. In some areas, tighten.
Can you see those spot
others.
welds?
It's probably a little subtle.
Yeah.
You can actually get them very small if you're using real thin mylar, but for this we used thicker.
Mm-hmm.
But you can still see the tape edges there. And then it's a sealed passport tube, sealed with a couple layers on the edge.
2 layers of J-Lar? Or what?
At least, yeah. And polished edges, so, and always coming over. And we know that certainly is not a great seal, but
Yeah, we're trying to
certainly
move away
sufficient.
from the
Yeah,
tape.
there are a couple commercial firms that can help us with achieving a little better seal with tape, and also easier. And we've even done things that open book. This is actually this is a sample and not made with good materials. We're still trying to get rid of our old Ticor that has the
Yeah, paper
inappropriate gear, inappropriate adhesive, and we would never use
Gator form.
in a real thing gator form, but for
As
the
a mock-up.
prototype, not intended for use. This was actually the description, contemporaneous description of the appearance of Our Lady of Guadalupe. The first, the report back by the Spanish governor,
The
1580
folder
or something.
itself isn't like that.
And it was being lent to a place without any external environmental control, as far as we tell, but we had to lend it for political reasons.
Mhm.
And this is a lot rougher than the final. We just mocked this up, but essentially, they're panels of bead art sword in here in the
In the cutaway sections in the
cutaway
Ticor.
sections, right?
Let's just see the edge again.
Sure.
That.
And
You can tell you're,
It's
yeah, you
acrylic.
can tell you're an
Yeah.
objects conservator.
So it's what, 1/8 inch acrylic,
Yeah.
4-ply mat board. Then that layer. What is that layer there? Do you remember?
that's the
Oh, that's the top of the Ticor.
top.
Ticor, another sheet of gator foam. You may be too close. I don't know what the focal length on that is. It may not. And then the same reverse on the back. Okay.
I think we substituted mat board in there for the real thing. And then a roll under here to keep the shape of the book, and then strapped down with very loose restraints in some
Yeah.
areas. And this was paper though, not.
Right. And if that was to, you've never done, have you done that in a two-sided mount that you could see either side from? You've not.
Not with a bound object. We've never done that. We've done multiple leads, gathering. Acquired, yeah, but I don't think we've ever done a bound volume. I know we've done it flat with mirrors underneath it.
Well, usually those, like if we mirror, tennies and here's exhibitions, but usually they design boxes and things like that.
But this is the first one we did, and trying to work on some of the problems, where it's essentially the two compartments, one that's basically open in the air, with a magnetic structure. We made it out of, this first time we made it out of scraps of acrylic, and the cup here is actually part of that top chamber, and houses the
Sensor.
The probe.
Sensor,
The probe.
right.
Well, the body
probe,
of it.
the sensor
yeah,
actually
the
is on the
sensor's
back.
Right, is not on the back.
So we get both external and internal conditions.
Oh, I see. So it's just a remote sensor.
Mhm.
Is it ACR? Did you say it was
Yeah,
ACR?
the 4
on
channel,
there?
and we use the sign. We've used the Scion and some. We tend to like the better programming and control comes out a little better. But that's sort of the first way.
Their sensors are quite small, like that, right? In a way like that. And you needed that large of a cup, as you called it.
We I think we wanted to make a little larger airspace. We had to take the housing off and cut the
And
remote
Mark
sensor.
actually modified
Yeah,
the, talked to the manufacturer and modified.
But I mean, it is just a thin chip, so you can get away with it in a small one.
And these are airports so that you have air, actually.
Yeah.
Actually, it's
The
sort of
Miss
modular.
Villains.
We can move these. I mean,
Yeah.
They're
Oh, that's,
and we
that's
have in fact-
locating the magnet,
Yeah,
the iron.
magnet, yeah, it's for the magnetic restraint. The toolbars can be moved and shifted depending. Yeah, there's no real interest in.
Yeah, it's just flexible.
and then rigidity was a bit, since we really are not talking full shots here. You
Can we look at the edge of this?
sure.
Yeah. It should.
But this is the first one.
That's the and it's got the earlier
But
sidebar
but the first one's
design.
always interesting because it shows you the path of thinking, and I think that's neat. And okay. This is an acrylic spacer. It's the acrylic seat.
Support.
All right, okay.
We went in the second one. We went to.
This is the modification.
Yeah,
of
this
it.
is the.
Okay.
We're now on the third and fourth one.
Roll this
But,
up so we can actually see it.
We can put that, you can put it over if you'd like. Here, let me
Do I
get it
not
here
want to
for you.
lift that up?
We just don't, the only thing, we just don't wanna scratch the plex because we know these are gonna be used again, that's
Yeah.
all.
Because they're an investment. Would you put this into it?
Well, it's also we're reusing. It's not that big a deal to put them back in, and we're also using them for newer. We can refit them to any. Essentially, just cutting a new mat.
And we had to shift some of the alignments, and several of the actual toolbars because of the having magnetic distance. You see, this is the earlier design, this is the first design.
And the magnets would go in these units here.
No, these are not magnets,
Okay.
these are steel,
Oh, you
these
said-
are steel rules. I mean, there's only one the only magnetic
Oh, no.
component. And you
So-
you can see the pull, and then, well, we can take it all, you want me to take it all apart for you? So you can see underneath
If
how it
you-
works.
Okay, if you're almost there.
Yeah, it's no problem.
It's interesting, you're doing essentially 4-part that, what you need to do.
Well, these are actually, like, we call them sidebars, because this is also has inside, if you want,
So-
that's got the art sort.
So
You'll see it more in the second design.
That layer there, okay, good.
This was, here, this is the traditional approach, and then we changed it. And you can see the base.
We had to cut away the remote sensor. Housing wouldn't fit in otherwise because it's small enough. The last one we took the housing completely off. The last few, and we just have the chip in there. But
And that works fine. Doesn't seem to change the calibration or anything.
Not really. But the only thing then the piece of art has in its chamber is mat board, a little bit of
You want to see the
chloroplast.
pull. I think
art
this
sorb.
is the interesting thing. You can modify this pull any way you want.
Yeah, by the quantity.
Well, and
That'll-
also the space,
The
the spacing, the
distance.
Oh, the
distance
distance.
away
Vertical distance.
from the magnets. Your plexi, all those thicknesses build up. But you see how gentle it is.
Yeah, but it's
Or-
consistent. It's
yeah.
just.
But you can also ruin that. You can also deliberately change that consistency, and that's why we went to the second system where different bars.
Yeah, we work with the.
So you can have no pressure, but only a little flap of chloroplast coming over, a line chloroplast coming over the artwork.
Neat.
So if you have an undulation, you can go around it. And but we did a little better job structurally, I think, in the second one. Right? I think
Well,
if
we
had
also should tell you, we designed the same amount of weeks.
And we all did,
yeah.
So that
Well,
was
you've
a-
already got
They
us
don't
beat.
mind.
We've got many more weeks than
Yeah,
that.
we know,
Um,
we had,
The,
there's a,
the top is a little different. I mean, the bottom compartment, structurally a great deal better, more rigid.
it's a little lighter because that has the
And it
polypropylene.
stays sealed.
So this is the second version. You're using
That's
a wood.
the diagram, yeah, with the.
And you're
with
using
the-
a wood strand.
Yeah, since-
Oh, but
frame.
this one has a wood strain. They all fit in the standard. No, that's right, it's just, it'd be easier for them to see how it actually works.
Top layer is 1/8 inch acrylic. Then we have the aesthetic matte.
Beautifully cut, it would
Very
good.
nicely cut.
Yeah, this is what this is the first top mat. This is a single panel coroplast. And then now what we've done is we've put in the art silk. We have 2 layers of art silk.
Mhm.
That's the back.
And there's not a great deal of density, but there's not much airspace in here either. We did the calculations, and apparently there's more than presumably we need according to the manufacturer.
Mm-hmm.
There are channels, these are placed in, since it is coroplast, the channels go all the way through, so that at least there's some air exchange,
These
some
should-
circulation,
these
some
should- these do come out,
accessibility
so
of
we
it.
should take these out. Oh, and then and Mark will have to unscrew. This is just screwed to the other panel with these little nylon screws.
Mm-hmm. Are they actually a rivet or are they a screw?
They're
This is
screws.
screws.
They're sort of nice in that you just screw one of these nylon things in, and they,
What it does
You
is
don't have
it
to
locks
tap
the top layer of the coroplast to the bottom one, which has these steel rods in it. So there's no shifting, since we're only really relying on the JLR tape, the sidebar, the sheath or the adhesive. You have to experiment a bit with your laminator. Like, we found that the temperature range, depending on what you're bonding to. But I'll make sure I get you a sample.
These are basically nylon stock bars that are simply tapped, threaded.
yeah,
And,
you buy just a kit.
Oh, you can buy them as part of like a plumber's kit or something.
Yeah.
Then you got rigid to rigid, and then you have to seal that. How you gonna seal that? Just caulk it?
Well, the testing that, because these are
Yeah.
commercial firms that are claiming they're pressurizing them and claiming good seals. I think we're gonna just let the engineers do their thing, and if they can come up with a good
Don't
seal.
trust
use
them.
it.
Oh no, we don't know. We don't
Yeah,
know.
they'll
no.
tell you it will, and then
No,
you
no, but we're just we're
let them play with the
The other
design.
thing is that the tape is it actually the assembly time on these is like 20 minutes, and the longest part of it takes is the taping.
Yeah.
I mean, the rest
Oh,
of it
that's
goes together in like 10 minutes. I mean,
Now, what we can do, what we did on some of the others, not this one, was leave sections out so that if you had a corrugation, you wouldn't clamp down in that area. You just let it go free or very light pressure.
Okay.
So it had which is why I was thinking, 100 little screws, but a number of them that would let you
Individually
not
adjust
draw
that.
it down totally. Because if you really draw down on a strong corrugation, you
You
move that
could.
corrugation somewhere else, and
Or
can
you
pop
crease
up
it, or you
immediate-
do
yeah.
something. Mhm.
Something nasty. Which is why we also have developed a sort of a point source, which substitutes for the, in some ways like a,
Yeah,
it's just a little drill rod. Yeah.
So, can you get that? So these are actually the rods.
yeah, these are the you can.
This whole
learn
thing
from
came
it.
out of McMaster Carr,
Yeah.
so.
Well, we use
I
McMaster-Carr
think
similarly.
Immediate gratification,
And
next
Mark
day you
had
get
me,
it.
Mark had me polish them up and they were a little greasy. We cleaned them up and then we
Yeah,
sprayed
degreased them.
Really?
Yeah, that sounds good. This the size of them happens to fit perfectly with the flute.
Yeah, I
Well,
think the flutes were designed for that. I mean, like to be a standard millimeter size.
So that's
that's
what-
it. They come in, and again, the coroplast comes in different sizes, so that gives you a lot.
Mhm.
But the new one, and what I think will be for other sorts of things, we have 2 rare earth magnets like this, coated. The coating is proving to be the real problem, and then a piece of essentially spring metal over here, and with an organic, and that holds it. You can put hundreds of these along the perimeter, which lets us tint.
This is a spring. Okay.
Well, this.
So it will be held.
It should
How?
get
Where
one.
will it be held from? Back
This will
there?
then go into the mat. What we've actually looked at is, there's telephone wiring boxes that you just put the string in and put a wire in at any point. They spent millions developing these. so the lineman wouldn't have to actually make connections. All I do is put the wire into
Yeah.
that little
Yeah.
and we've got little strips of that, which we've just been playing with. We don't have a full one yet. But you just put that string in, and then you've got it suspended. You've essentially done a string mat with 2 magnets. That's tensioning. I'm not really sure. We're looking at this for permanent housing.
This is
but,
spring steel, you said?
and then an organic.
And then the
response.
string goes here,
Yeah, and then.
and then the document starts here?
No, documents. Here.
Well, let me get you the.
Oh, document goes on that side.
Yeah, so it's held with a
Mhm.
small little. And these are rare earths, so they're very strong.
I
And,
understand, and this is the logical progression from this
Yeah, although
to
I gotta
copying
say-
the string the
Yeah,
string approach,
the
but yet
point stores. But I think.
Mark likes the string approach.
Yeah, we have some arguments here. This, I think, does, for an exhibition mat with a microclimate, I think probably better than this will. I'm not sure I trust this
Mhm.
long term, but for temporary storage, for a temporary show or for permanent storage with a non-controlled environment, or even HVAC system that you don't absolutely trust, this I think would be pretty good.
Oh, wait, that's good.
Better hold and keep it stable.
Well, here's the acrylic web.
We essentially do all the machining ourselves in the back, so it's a little crude.
It's essentially the same, you know. This time we found as the plexi sheets get larger, Mark found that we wanted to increase the stability, so he infilled with chloroplast in the wells because
And because that is also used, the AD analog digital will control this, so we can do our own cycling on it. But we can control. We bought this in 1987. We do. Al does 4 days a week. Puts in maybe 50, 60 paper documents, unifies them, gets them down. But it's been really useful with parchment as well. I mean,
it's a great machine.
So and it has a auxiliary dehumidifier there. I would say for any lab dealing with parchment, this is. I don't think we could have done much
We've
harder.
also been able to relax dull linings and things like this.
with the magnet.
I want to ask, have you figured out how much pressure? Have you measured the pressure that it puts on a document? And is there any way of doing that?
They're actually, we were thinking of getting, the equipment we were looking at in terms of measuring the pole and the strength and everything, it's quite expensive, so I think unless we get, but we really are interested in that actually, because it's that, we're also interested in actually starting to work with that in conjunction with the chamber in terms of.
Because I can see like then you have like a type 1 to type 5. Your type 1 pressure
Mhm.
would be used for this kind of document, this kind of folio, and would take a magnet of this size
Mhm.
at a distance of this distance.
Mhm.
You may be able to work it out so you could almost.
We did that. We got the first notice of Abby was
Oh,
in
that's
88.
right, yeah.
In '88, and with a tape seal, and that's what interests me about the tape, because we don't want to use it if it's bad, but in some sense, it obviously can seal a couple layers of it can seal it. On the other hand, we have old JLAR that's now giving off a vinegar odor. Suggested. I can pull some of that, I think, and that really bothers me, frankly, for permanent enclosures. If we have that happening, then I'm really worried about it, frankly. I would like to get away from some. We had the Donegan Charter, in fact, it's down there now, the Museum of the City of New York, and we specified with the frame builder using the Gore-Tex beading and a compression fitting on that, but I don't really know how well any of this really seals. I guess I don't really know
paperboard underneath cover.
Okay.
And then see here, we spot welded it, okay? But I actually, this is actually cut out, but initially to insert it,
Yeah.
see those corner clips? You can just lift it up with like a micro spatula, a soft one, and just insert things in.
Okay.
No, the document fits
Miriam,
right
would
in
it be
there.
okay if we take a photograph of this?
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. So there's this,
So there's
Solid
essentially two
back.
sheets of
a mat board, okay.
clear, and the document
really bad
fits
glare.
in there. And she has these in different thicknesses, but it basically then just floats. And this is for a thicker document, quite a thick one. But she also has very thin ones, so it's separated from you're not squashing it between two sheets of acrylic, but you have some support there as well.
Support, but yet there's breathing room.
Right, and then this is a microclimate with essentially, well, this is the standard
With
standard
JLR tape
yeah.
around it.
Right. This one doesn't. This has been cornered in.
Mhm.
But those are some of the things
Mhm.
that Mary, and she's worked with a vendor, and he now is very accomplished at routing internal parts, but there are other ways of machining that
Mhm.
could presumably be done too.
And so this could be made into a microclimate relatively
Absolutely.
easily.
Yes.
Simply.
perimeter
Mhm.
halls or
Mhm.
whatever channels.
And how might this go on display? Vertically?
Vertically or horizontal, depending how you want it.
Or
We
the-
have 16 by 20,
16 by
and
20.
and 14 by 20. Those were the sizes.
So this will work on a large
Yes.
scale as well.
30 by 40, I don't know, but until 16 by 20, we are
16 by 20 inches.
And this is Miriam's discovery.
Absolutely, and she's worked with a vendor. This is, and I'm sure she'll give you the vendor name. But the last one, there was a support on the thing. This one on both sides. That was the
Mhm.
designer's intent.
Mhm. Yeah.
I can't
You
remember
can
what the
have
edges.
screwdrivers, plexiglass screwdrivers, or you can just put yellow tape or just
Mhm.
a little
Mhm.
in those
and-
sheets of fishing
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
hang.
If you want to keep it as a sample, I don't know. Because we're interested in, I'm very interested in your opinions on things too.
I think there's a way that we can probably make them happy. I think if we came up with something like what Miriam's developed using that material. I think
Yeah,
that would be, that would be the way. And whatever we have to do for the attachment, I think we have enough options there.
And I'll get you the product ad on this to know whether it was Cyro or who it was.
I mean, I saw a little sheet of non-glare acrylic, but from whereas the true US glass. Even just a physical block.
Are going to come out to be about the same.
Okay.
So if we're working, unless you'd like to leave that template too.
No, if that's what, and we can just send, we'll make one of them, and then we'll send this back to you, right?
These will need back, and then probably I ought to have this back since I cut this down to size.
Okay.
But when you're done.
And then, what's the time frame?
I don't know if you, in the next week or so, you get a chance.
Yeah, that's no problem.
Well, I think this is just the beginning where we can talk to each other about,
Yeah.
I'd love to be able to run other things by you, but we could, we could also, Shin is very interested in testing too. And he could standardize some of it maybe, and we could, kind of play around with this, because he's very interested in this. Jim Deruzik is out there, and he's
This box and yet
Oh no, the box we made subsequently.
Oh, okay.
But we made the box.
the treatment.
The treatment was all earlier.
And they're just the two leaves, but you'd think that there were 1,000 in here. Good way to- adhesive. So Mark can probably talk about the technical specs better than I can.
Mhm.
I don't know, was the air pocket
No,
climatized at all, or
No,
is it
it's
just a lucite
straightforward,
sandwich?
You know, it's just a straightforward encapsulation suspended with tape at the edges, adhering the, we had to take, it slipped and it was causing Newton rings at a certain point, so we took it apart
Mm-hmm.
and redid the,
And the tape goes how far?
this
The whole
actually
thing
doesn't go over, because this wasn't going in a frame, we trimmed it off.
Mm-hmm. And you feel
Well,
that
it's not a perfect,
yeah.
I guess what we'd say is it's not a perfect microclimate, but
No.
doesn't keep it from,
Mhm.
and there's no silica gel in there or anything else. It's a simple encapsulation in
Mhm.
but we've started doing this with a number of other things in the collection, largely because of the number of visiting firemen and
Mhm.
the
And you did in that time they used you have 3 for protection.
yeah.
Also.
And I mean, you still have the real problem. I think you would get into with a Mylar encapsulation. I'm surprised they didn't bring it up. Is that if the item hasn't been deacidified,
Mm-hmm.
they're not going to want to seal it in Mylar. In
That's
your
right.
case, your traditional.
I know that's a traditional
Uh,
argument that is made.
But,
It's a 2,
um,
but you think it's a
it's
thinner,
either 3 or 4.
Okay.
Which one? I
And-
suspect 4 is pretty standard.
probably welded, and it probably extends out a full inch or
Yeah.
more.
And that's the actual border. It had to be 89 or 88. We took it apart. Went over. It goes about this far out,
Mhm.
and the weld is just beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
The actual treatment. This was aqueously treated and deacidified. The oranging there, I think,
Mhm.
indicates that.
Mm-hmm. And what about glare? Glare, you do get the glare. You get it from once from the acrylic and twice from the
If we come up with a
yeah.
alternative, we'll redo it.
Oh,
It's not
that's
a big deal.
Can you see that glare?
And I think this is a good point
Mhm.
to make. And unless we're using polarizers on the walls of the external,
Mm-hmm.
by the time you put this in an exhibition case, that's 3 layers you have
Mhm.
in there.
And you can see it's multi reflections when you get a
Mhm.
non-planar
Mhm.
material like that. Are you getting the glare set?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is a wonderful example to see. Thank you for making that
Sure.
effort.
Do you want to take a look at the other leaves? or-
Yeah. Sure. Is it underneath?
Yeah.
You can always request these for loan. just joking.
Actually, dealing with us about, yeah.
If you had a printed version like that, would that have the same tight stipulations on display, or do you take a?
Well, I think, theoretically, yes. The curator might be more inclined toward flexibility if in consultation with the conservator.
As long as you fill out the treatment, like,
So how large a frame is this?
The inside is 24.
I'm not
Okay,
worried.
and maybe I forgot all the measurements.
That's okay.
I went checking and I found this one and I said, my
Mhm.
God.
And it's basically airtight by the JLR,
Yes.
but not a
this is that.
microclimate as it's designed.
The screw holes are going to certainly let a certain amount in.
Yes, Susan? No. I have a godson who was only about 8 years old and he started to kind of get, he's really intrigued by this stuff.
Well, actually, I got that change that